Back in 1960s, 3 billion people were eating off the land. Farms were bigger, water was plenty, and pests weren't that smart. Now, almost 8 billion mouths. Farmland per person, less than half compared to few decades earlier. Droughts are hitting harder and pests evolving faster than our economy. By 2050, we will need 70% more food, but land doesn't grow magically. So, how do we survive? The answer might be hiding inside this tiny seed. Let's get into the video. Look at this. Crops dying because it's too hot, too dry, or because pests are throwing a party on them. And the climate change isn't waiting either. Droughts, super pests, heat waves are already hitting harvests harder. This is where genetically modified organisms step in. No, they are not some mutant Hollywood science fiction movie stuff. These are normal crops that we see in our day-to-day life, just smarter. Cons that pests go, nope, not touching this. Rice engineered to make vitamin A, helping kids improve their nutrition. Golden rice is approved in the Philippines and partially in Bangladesh, still in trials elsewhere. Eggplants, like India's BT brinjal, they survive pests with fewer pesticide sprays. It's not magic, it's carefully measured science. And in places where they are actually used, the results are visible. Healthier fields, farmers spraying less pesticides, and people getting safer and more nutritious food. And it's not just science in labs. Companies and innovators are quietly reshaping our food. Bayer and Corteva are developing crops built to withstand pests and unpredictable weather, helping farmers protect harvests under tougher conditions. Pairwise has introduced CRISPR-edited leafy greens, already available on US supermarket shelves, marking one of the first gene-edited foods to reach consumers. Benson Hill is re-engineering soybeans, boosting protein content and flavor to support the growing demand for the plant-based diets. Together, these efforts represent a quiet transformation of agriculture, one that is already unfolding in laboratories, on farms, and gradually on dinner tables around the world. So, here is where things get tricky. In 2025, the US wanted India to open its markets to genetically modified soy and corn. India said no. Not because genetically modified organisms don't work. They do. The problem is bigger than DNA. Farmers' livelihood. Many Indian farmers save seeds from one harvest to plant the next. If cheap imported GM seeds flood the market, farmers could lose income and get stuck buying expensive seeds every season. Secondly, biodiversity. India has thousands of local crop varieties built over centuries. If genetically modified crops mix with these, we could lose this genetic diversity, the safety net that protects us if pests or climate disasters hit. Thirdly, control over our food. If a few big companies own most of the genetically modified seeds, they could control the prices and supply, affecting farmers and the food we all eat. And finally, the environmental concerns. If we depend too much on one type of genetically modified crop, pests can adapt and fight back like a superbug that stops responding to medicine. And if these crops spread into places they aren't meant to, they could disturb the local ecosystem. So, cheaper imports might sound tempting, but the risk touch farmers, families, and the future of our crops. That's why the debate isn't just about science, it's about who benefits and who bears the risk. So yeah, GMOs are one of the sharpest tools to fight hunger, drought, and pests. The real drama? Who holds the remote? If food is power, then seeds are the batteries. And right now, the fight isn't just about growing crops. It's about who gets to press start.